It's about 10 minutes past 2. Very happy to have with us right now. We're ready for some live music in our studio. Lee Ranaldo and the Dust playing this evening at Barboza. Thank you all for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Lee, if you could introduce the band members to our listeners.
Sure, I would be happy to. We've got Alan Licht on guitar over here to my right.
Hello there.
And Steve Shelley on the drums. And Tim Lunzel on the bass.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. Playing tonight at Barboza. We'll talk about the new record and stuff in a little bit, but if you're ready for a couple songs, that'd be great.
Yeah, we are. We're going to start with a song from the new record called Keyhole. Take this as a last line. Take this as leading. The scattered fruit, the chatter, a youthful malcontents. Let's take our eyes out and then complete the conversation. Describe a way out of our grandest plan. That's when I call you over. This is called Off the Wall. I just saw a rainbow fall into the floor, shattered into pieces. Your eyes ask what for. These days I'm all alone out in the middle of the world. These days I try to tell myself you're just some other girl. I just saw the red door slamming on the stage. Chaos in the streets, these are the days of rage. These days are so uncertain, satellites falling to the sea. These days it's all a question of what matters to you and me. Watch me as I fall and scrape me off the wall. Take me home. See me as I am, just half a man, trying to get home. Explosions in the city, explosions deep in me. Someone in the crowd has me falling at her feet. These days are so uncommon, satellites and sirens call. These days I'm trying hard to keep from falling off the wall. It's written in the sand, the life and death of man.
All right. Thank you very much. You're listening to live music here on KEXP. Lee Ranaldo and the Dust, who are playing tonight at Barboza. Last Night on Earth is the brand new album. Again, thanks for being here. There's a lot of winter wonderland going on across the country.
There sure is.
How's the traveling been going before you get out here?
It's going pretty well. Our van driving up the coast to Portland the other day ran into some slick roads for a little bit in that one pass on the way up there, and that was kind of exciting, I guess. But yeah, it's been hella cold up here.
It's just a little colder this past week for us than normal.
Yeah,
So-
we're getting ready for winter. We got getting our ice skates out and sharpening our skis.
Yeah. Now, I didn't really want to start off with that to make the point of how this the album started off, but some severe weather, Hurricane Sandy was sort of...
It was in part a catalyst for the record, the Hurricane Sandy, which was just a little over a year ago, I guess, in New York. And, we had some songs going at that time, but we all live in the New York metropolitan area. I live in downtown Manhattan, and luckily the building I live in was not flooded, but within a block or two in just about every direction from where I am, people were under 15, 20 feet of water, like basements full up, first floor to over my head, like 6 or 7 feet of water. It was pretty unbelievable. I mean, it was obviously really, really tragic. And anyway, we lost power and electricity, hot water, lights, everything, heat for about a week or so, and there wasn't much going on that week. It was it was kind of post-apocalyptic downtown. If we walked out on the street, I live in a neighborhood, so it's still, we were kind of my family. We all stayed, and everybody we knew stayed. But if you were out on the streets in the evening, it was no lights coming out of the windows, no lights on the streets. People walking around with flashlights. Occasionally, a shadowy figure coming out of the shadows at the other end of the streets. It felt pretty weird. And at home at night, candles lit, no cell phone service, no power to charge cell phones or computers. And I sat around strumming acoustic guitars a lot that week, and a couple songs, the title song, Last Night on Earth, which was kind of jumping off from that situation to kind of more of a science fiction story kind of thing. I was thinking about stuff like Cormac McCarthy's The Road, which I had read not long before, and some science fiction stuff I read in my youth about that kind of situation, rather than specifically referencing Sandy. But there's another song called Blacked Out that's where we were. We were blacked out, so it was pretty straightforward.
Now, you mentioned writing acoustically, obviously with no power, but writing acoustically is not unusual for you.
No, it's pretty standard these days. I mean, when we're not playing out, I'm playing mostly acoustic guitars at home and doing a lot of my writing on acoustic guitars. I've got a bunch of them in my house, and I've got one in particular, sort of a little cheap one that I take if we're traveling or whatever. That, I really, in the last few years, as I've been kind of moved into this songwriting stint, I've really reacquainted myself with the joys of playing acoustic guitar, which was an early love in my guitar playing career, like when I was a teenager, and I never really stopped. But electric guitars kind of took over, and certainly in terms of the public's perception, I'm an electric guitar player, but I've always played acoustic. In the last few years, I've just really had a renewed kind of exuberance for the joys of the instrument and how everyone is different and the woods they're built with, and so I'm kind of I like to collect them and play them.
Last year's album was just your name. This album, the new one, you've got a band name, so it kind of reflects more of a band sound taking shape here.
Yeah, when I made the last record, I was writing those songs in some downtime for Sonic Youth. We had just finished touring the Eternal record, and it was not yet known even to Steve and I what was to come in terms of internal emotional conflict or whatever, and I was just sitting around at home, and I was involved in a lot of other musical projects, more abstract things. I mean, Alan and I have a band together called Text of Light that does improvisational stuff with films, and I have another thing I do with my wife that's more of a sort of theatrical guitar and film performance. And I was doing a lot of that stuff, but at a certain point, I guess I kind of missed the process that is writing songs, because it's a very specific kind of thing. Songs are like a jigsaw puzzle, and you kind of work at putting all the pieces in place until you get it just right. And I started writing these songs, and I thought I would just go into the studio and make a very simple acoustic guitar and voice record. And I asked Steve to try drumming on a couple of them, and things kind of just expanded from there. But I laid down most of those tracks with Steve and a bass player, and then Alan and Nels Klein and John Medeski and all the other people that played on that record kind of came in and played over the tracks. So it was, and you know, when I made that record, I wasn't thinking at all about the fact that, you know, like somebody said, like, well, you're going to go out and tour. And I wasn't really thinking beyond the point of, like, I'm going to make a solo record. This is going to be, you know, something I've wanted to do for a long time. And then, you know, we put this little band together and started playing. And over the course of a year and a half of playing, Tim joined on bass, and it really started to click as a band. You know, it's not that easy to just drop yourself into a new band situation, especially after playing in one pretty amazing band for such a long time, and feel immediately comfortable. But like over the course of a year, we kind of started to develop a language together, and by the time we started working on Last Night on Earth, I had some songs, and I felt like I was really bringing them to a band, and you know, so we had the luxury of spending a lot of months last winter in the studio, just kind of working them up and arranging them, and, you know, pulling them apart and putting them back together, and we had kind of joked for a long time, like, let's find a band name. You know, Lee Ranaldo Band sounds kind of boring. Let's find a band name. And we were playing around with Lee Ranaldo and the this or that, and, you know, must have thrown out 50 or 75 ideas. And then one day, I don't even know who suggested it amongst us, but the name The Dust came up, and everybody kind of was like, yeah, I could live with that, and I kind of like it somehow. So we all agreed on it. And
good.
So this was definitely a band record compared to the last one.
All right. I wanted to ask you about the first song on the album, Lecce, Leaving. Is this having to do with the city in Italy?
Yeah. It has to do with this little city down in the boot heel of Italy. It's an amazing little antique town in a way. You know, it's like it's old stone streets that really. I spent most of a month there. Not last summer, but the summer before, with my family. There's a woman from there who's married to an experimental drummer in New York, and she runs a sort of a sound arts program there, where they bring a bunch of people to town every summer and have different people. When I was there, there was an opera singer and a librettist working on an opera, and a bunch of other different disparate people, and everybody's thrown together and kind of collaborates with each other. And I was pretty impressed by the place, and it just kind of I had these chords I was working on, and it really kind of solidified into that song there in Lecce. We've been playing that one a lot, and it's kind of the one that the record label is featuring, and we're not going to play it today, actually, because we feel like we play it every time we do any kind of a feature like this. And so but it's been a pretty fun song to play. It's kind of expansive. It's got a wide open middle that lets us kind of break loose a little bit.
Yeah. Now, I heard that you played in India sometime this last year?
In September. We had an invitation to go to India, and I'd wanted to go there for a really long time. I was trying for ages to get Sonic Youth to go to India, and it just never happened. And I don't know, I've had a fascination with the place, and it seemed like, you know, we've played a lot of places around the world. Sonic Youth has, and actually we have at this point too, but it was always kind of a little out of reach. And the opportunity came up to go and play and to support this little this tiny little festival that they're trying to get off the ground there, called the Zero Festival. It's in a valley called Ziro, Ziro, in the middle of nowhere. Like it was crazy getting to this place was absolutely crazy, and it was maybe. I still think it was maybe the most remote place on earth I've ever been, actually. We had to fly into this city, and India has this little appendage in the northeast, like on the eastern side of Bangladesh, above Thailand and below China. And it's a part of India I never knew anything about before, but the state of Assam is there, where they grow a lot of tea. And we had to fly into this town called Guwahati and then drive about 17 hours over the worst roads with the most insane drivers to get to this town, which is kind of they call it the foothills of the Himalayas. It's starting to get elevated. It was like a little over a mile high where we were, but if you kept going on that road, you'd get to Mount Everest at a certain point. And so we went there and we spent about a week in this very remote region. It was everybody looked more like Tibetan or Vietnamese or Thai. Nobody had an Indian-looking face, and indeed, it was all rice paddies, and it was more like Southeast Asia in a way than India. And so we spent about a week there looking around and playing at this little weird festival, like maybe 800 or 1,000 people came. Everything in that area is made out of bamboo. So the stage we played on was one of the most beautiful stages ever, but it was all bamboo and rope, and everybody lives in bamboo huts and houses, and it was pretty unbelievable to be there for a while. And then we played sort of club shows in Delhi and in Bombay, and it was an amazing 2 weeks.
Did you find many people that knew who you were or Sonic Youth?
Well, people knew who Sonic Youth was. Certainly a lot of the journalists we were talking to had known about that stuff and were, had kind of waited forever to have any of that kind of music come over. And, it's such a crazy, diverse, gigantic country that even the notion of like trying to get people to come to your rock gig, it's like, how do you disseminate that information? There's like just so many people and so many different things going on there. But there were people that knew of our music and our type of music. And at the festival, we were the only Western band amongst, it was 3 days long. It was all Indian bands. And you could tell they were listening to different kinds of Western music. One band would sound like so-and-so and another band would sound like something else. A lot of kind of like grunge and post-grunge Pacific Northwest influences going on there, and we met a lot of really beautiful people. It was a really amazing experience. It wasn't an easy trip, but it was a really rewarding trip in a lot of ways.
All right. With obviously with Sonic Youth on hiatus, on the shelf. Now,
hiatus.
Just trying to come up with a word.
Yeah.
You talked earlier about this band and starting to become comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And obviously all the visual artwork that you do as well. So has it gotten comfortable where you get up in the morning and you start thinking, hey, I can just pursue what music I want to pursue or what visual art work that I want to do?
Well, it's a pretty good period right now. I'm doing a lot of visual stuff that's getting shown in different galleries and stuff, and I feel like we're just having a blast and playing really great shows. And one thing I'm really into about this band is it's pretty versatile. We just recorded an album of all acoustic songs when we were in Spain a few months ago, and we've actually been doing some shows where we play all acoustic. Tim plays upright bass, and Alan and I on acoustic guitars, and Steve's playing percussion and different things other than drum kit. And and that's something that Sonic Youth never could do. We tried a couple times. We tried playing acoustic at Neil Young's Bridge concert one year, and it was kind of a beautiful failure in a way. But this band is really versatile, and since I'm writing a lot of the stuff on acoustic guitars, it seemed kind of nice to go back to that. So, in Europe last month, we played in one town where we did electric one night and acoustic the next night, and that's really fun. So it's been nice expanding in a lot of different ways.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Lee Ranaldo and the Dust are playing tonight at Barboza, and then you guys are headed to California, I think, to kind of finish up the tour.
Yeah, this is just a little West Coast run. We did Portland and Vancouver already, and we're going San Francisco, San Jose,
and then going
LA
home,
and San Diego.
Going home after that?
Yeah.
Any special holiday shows you're a part of?
Not really. Thurston's actually curating a week at a little place in New York called The Stone. That's John Zorn's little tiny club, like 100 people. And he's doing the week from New Year's Eve to the first week of January. And Steve and I are both doing something with him there that week.
All right.
Yeah.
Last Night on Earth is the new album. They're playing tonight at Barboza. You ready to continue?
Yeah. Another nice thing about this band is that we're able to pull covers out and just for Sonic Youth it was always kind of a wrenching thing to try and do a cover. We had all these weird tunings and it just wasn't that easy to get together, but we're big music fans and we're constantly trading favorite songs of the week or whatever, and so it's been pretty fun to just like, oh, that's a great song, let's learn that and play it tonight and tomorrow night, and then leave it behind and do something else. And so we've been playing a lot of different covers. We did Neil Young's Revolution Blues last night, and we've been playing a lot we've been totally obsessed with the first record by Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers, and so we've been playing a song off that record. But we were pretty affected a few weeks ago when Lou Reed died, and some of us knew him a little bit. We're able to say hi to him. Alan did some interviews with him, and once he hooked up with Laurie Anderson, he was kind of living in my neighborhood some of the time, so we'd see each other at the movie theater or something like that. And I think we weren't ready for how affecting it was, his passing. And how you always knew his music was super significant, and yet I guess nobody imagined he was going anywhere anytime soon. And so we'd like to do a song that he's very well remembered for. So this is rock and roll. I hope.
Janie said when she was just 5 years old, there was nothing happening at all. Every time she turned on the radio, there was nothing going down at all. And one fine morning she turned on a New York station. She couldn't believe what she heard at all. She started shaking to that fine music. Her life was saved by rock and roll. It took no computations to go out and dance to a rock and roll station. And it was alright. And it was alright. Jenny said when she was just 5 years old, you know my parents, they won't help us at all. 2 TV sets, 2 Cadillac cars, well baby, they won't help us at all. And one fine morning she turned on a New York station. She couldn't believe what she heard at all. She started dancing to that fine music. Her life was saved by rock and roll, rock and roll. Despite all the amputations, she go out and dance to a rock and roll station. It was alright. It was alright. Jenny said when she was just 5 years old, there was nothing happening at all. Every time she turned on the radio, there was nothing going down at all. Then one fine morning she turned on a New York station or a Seattle station at all. She started dancing to that fine music. Her life was saved by rock and roll. It took no computations to go out and dance to a rock and roll station.
.3 KEXP here in Seattle. That was fantastic.
Okay, thanks.
You're listening to Lee, Ranaldo, and the Dust, and they're playing tonight at Barboza.
Yeah.
And Lee's tuning up here for one more song.
It's taken us a while to get up here to the Northwest. This is the first time we've been here with this band, and we've been super excited to come up and play, because it's always been such a great place for music and for us to come and play music. So it's real nice to be here.
Thanks for sharing some thoughts on Lou, as a music person myself, just to go out and see the shows I've seen over the years. And I was very fortunate to see him through the years in various places when I lived in California and here, and just for you to share some thoughts.
We've been listening to all the different records. We've been kind of fixated on certain things recently, like Street Hassle. I mean, what an amazing cut that song is. It's just like absolutely amazing. But so we've been like just pulling them all out. They've all been around and reappreciating them.
Right.
And and when I started getting serious about playing rock and roll, those early Velvets records were just such complete touchstones to everything. It's like amazing.
Yeah, fantastic.
So we're going to do one more.
All right.
I think, right? Do we have time for one more?
You have plenty of time.
Okay. We're going to do a song called "The Rising Tide." It's a song from the new record. It's one of the kind of featured songs in my mind on the record, and it's kind of loosely based on the kids I grew up with, and when you're at teenage where you're starting to explore various things, various adult things, as you're a teenager, and it's just kind of about that time of life when you're kind of searching and wondering what's going to happen. Okay.
Thank you very much. Lee Ranaldo and the Dust. That was a live version of The Rising Tide. It's on the new album Last Night on Earth, which is on the Matador label.
Yes, it is.
And they're playing tonight at Barboza. Alan, Tim, Steve, and Lee, thank you so much for being here, spending part of Sunday afternoon with us.
Oh, thanks for having us. Thanks a lot.
All right. I want to say thank you to our engineer, Jackson. It's 90.3 KEXP, Seattle.